I give you the JBL Charge 3. It's 4 years old. It was a speaker that I was really happy with for a long time. I haven't played it for a long time since I got my Sony XB30, and later on speakers like the Anker Soundcore Motion Plus have left the Charge 3 sitting on my shelf gathering dust. I did like it for a long time. I did have a pair of them, still have a pair of them, and I got a lot of people telling me, don't know what you're talking about, liking the Charge 3, you must be nuts. But I liked it. A lot of people still like it. 4 years on, it is a speaker a lot of people still quite like, so I couldn't have been that far off the mark. Is it the greatest speaker in the world? No, certainly not by today's standards. But do you know what? I'm still getting people ask me, can I hear this, that or the other against the JBL Charge 3? So do you know what? I was specifically asked, can we hear it against the PL7? So while I still got the PL7 on my desk, I thought, yeah, let's do that. Let's see just how far behind we are now with the JBL Charge 3 compared to what you can get. Now, when this came out, it was a £150-ish speaker, which is what the PL7 is in that sort of class, £139. But you can now pick up one of these for around £87. I say one of these, well, it's not the JBL Charge, it's the JBL Charge 3 Reach. That seems to be the JBL Charge 3, but in black. Also, weighs a bit less, I don't know exactly why, but the only other difference seems to be the firmware. I'm on the latest and probably the last firmware, 7.6.0, and the Reach seems to be running much earlier firmware, and the difference seems to be a little bit more in the bass, but a little less in the highs. There's also the JBL Charge Essential. That appears to be the JBL Charge 3, but without the ability to pair as a stereo. So just a single button on top, because you're never going to pair them as a stereo. You could say to me, yeah, but out of the Essential, the Reach, isn't it just money for old rope? They're selling off old stock. And I would say, you may be onto something. However, people are interested in this, and I'm going to do a comparison with the PL7 just to see where we are with the JBL Charge 3. Is it still relevant today, 2020? Now, I say comparing it to the PL7, this weighs 1.5 kilos. This is 1.450 grams, 1,450 grams. That is quite hefty in your hand. And I was surprised when I came out to Charge 3 just how light it was. It weighs 800 grams. But the standard, now here's the JBL Charge 4, noticeably lighter than the JBL Charge 4. The JBL Charge 4 is bigger. And this kind of sits where there is no speaker now. To me, this kind of sits between the JBL Charge 4 and the Flip 5. Now, if they marketed it like that and give it a different name instead of Essential Rip-Off or Reach for your wallet or something like that, they may have got away with it a bit more. But as you can see, it probably fills a niche where there is no other speaker. In terms of size and weight, it does feel quite handy now. You know, it was a reasonable size when it came out, and now almost here's the XB23, almost XB23-like in the hand in terms of its weight. I would almost class it now around the Sony XB23 mark. So maybe it is a bit relevant given that you can pick one up for about 87 quid. So, other differences, of course, it is an old speaker. That means Bluetooth 4.1, not the Bluetooth 5 you're going to get in your PL7. Of course, no USB-C as we got in the PL7. Do get an auxiliary in both, can use them both as a power bank. They are both capable as speakerphones. Interestingly, rated at 20 watts for the JBL Charge 3, and whereas that kind of niche speaker now comes in around the 30 watts, as is the PL7. PL7? You can't drop it in your pool. You can't drop it in the sea if you're at the beach, because you are in trouble. It's only IPX5. 4 years ago, we already had IPX7. You can drop that in your swimming pool, in your bath, and it should survive. It will play 4 hours at maximum volume, whereas 50 minutes then drops the volume a little bit and plays for a total of 6 hours, 4 minutes. It is the bigger battery in the PL7, but runs at 7.4 volts, so 3,900 milliamp hours in terms of actual capacity compared to 3.7 volts, 6,000 milliamps. And in terms of actual capacity, you've got more because of the way they're ranged. But it is you've got bigger battery altogether in the PL7. So cut to the chase. I'm going to start off around 50%, so 50% on the Charge 3, and bear in mind we've got sound boost mode and we have the standard mode. So sound boost off is standard mode, sound boost on is your boosted mode. So I'm going to try both modes against the JBL Charge 3. In the old days, you didn't have lights, you didn't have multiple modes, you knew where you were, this is what it sounds like, and still you were happy. Let's have a listen. So I'm saying 49% on the Charge 3, which is about 53% in standard mode and 69% sound boost mode on your PL7.
Sound, but me dancing to my own drums. I found another city and I plugged it in. Built the empire that I live in. Never been something I couldn't do. Once I found my way to you. Way to you. Put my blueprints down. Laid it out stone by stone. Picked up my fallen crown. After working to the bone. Now I'm sitting pretty next to gentlemen. Singing with the choir, I've got thicker skin. Never been something I couldn't do. Once I found my way to you. My way to you. My way to you. I've come so far, I hardly recognize who I was before I opened up my My way to you.
Sound boost mode, Charge 3, standard mode PL7, standard mode versus JBL Charge 3. Similar low bass, there's not a lot in it. The big difference here is the upper bass in sound boost mode. So if we're looking 150 Hz to 200 Hz range, Charge 3, sound boost, Charge 3, sound boost. That's a big part of the difference you're going to hear in terms of the bass weight. The Charge 3 heavier in those mids, which is going to give it that clarity. And then against standard mode, we're much heavier in the lower bass now on standard mode. And that's the big difference. Charge 3, standard. Charge 3, we're looking here around 70 Hz, standard. And then the other difference is 2000 to 8000, where there's a bit of a dip in standard. And it's pretty flat on the Charge 3 in that same region. So PL7 having clearly more bass weight than Charge 3, but in different ways depending on the mode that you have the PL7. So we know the bass weight isn't there on the JBL Charge 3. There is a bit of extension. It's not completely bereft of bass, but there is no real weight to it. However, what you do get is amazing clarity. And in the sense that when you hear AB against the PL7, probably you're thinking, didn't I put a towel over the PL7? There's that much more clarity and it's that much clearer than the PL7. that if you listen to vocals, and I have to say also it has much more forward vocals. So I think this really shines with vocals, and it can hold its own, I think, at these more moderate volumes, around the 50%, even with today's kind of up there, one of the first to think of speakers in this 150 pound range. Does hang nice with vocals, however, it doesn't have the bass weight, but it's not, I wouldn't say it was completely outclassed. Of course, if it's all about the bass, it's not really there in the weight you would want. So the question is, what happens as we move up that scale? So I'm going to say about 70%. 70%, what does that actually mean? It means 76% on the Charge 3, 96% already in standard mode, and 69% in sound boost mode.
Is that light work with the bass on the track, on my face to the back like I'm taking a slap. I need a drink but it's straight from the tap, and I'm hating the slack. Couple man thrown around like the hate in the gaff. Please stop talking that trash, cause the vibes in the front all the way to the back.
These volumes, sound boost mode in the upper bass region. At these volumes, sound boost still stronger in the upper bass region. Charge 3, sound boost, Charge 3, sound boost. But it also has more bass extension. It just holds on to a bit more of that bass as it drops down into the deeper bass. Still the Charge 3 much stronger in the mids. And then again, standard mode, that lack of bass weight on the Charge 3 even more in evidence. 5 dB down at the 50 Hz mark. Just over decibels down at 60 Hertz, and even at 100 Hertz, it's a dB down. The Charge 3 much stronger in the mids, and actually extends a little bit further into that harmonics range, up to about 17,000 Hertz compared to like 16,000 Hertz on the PL7. So you've got to remember, this is a 20-watt speaker, and it is holding its own in terms of volumes because of that lack of bass weight. 50% of the frequency range in terms of power. 50% 300 Hertz up, and then 300. So the cutoff point, if you're not doing that much below 300 Hertz, you can go that much louder because it doesn't take that much power for the rest of the frequency range in terms of the narrowness of the bass that you would be trying to power up. So that's why bass heavy speakers may not go as loud as you would expect, because all that power is needed to drive the bass. So I would say now at these volumes where there's a bit more of a roll off, you know, for me, it's no longer a listen. We've moved on. In its day, I thought it was a very enjoyable listen. With some heavy EQ for the bass, it does need filling out in the bass. It is bass light in terms of, there is extension, but there is no real weight to the bass. And I have to say, most of the time I was playing them as a stereo pair, which was going to help the bass. And that's where it really shines in the vocals. If you're listening to a lot of vocal tracks and as a pair, there's a lot of air because it's not a very thick sound and it's mids focused. When you've got a pair, there's a lot of air around your soundstage and you can have them separate out. That's to me where, you know, it really came into its own. However, in today's terms, just not enough bass weight. Given all the alternatives we can listen to, but yeah, you can still listen to that happily. But if you start to listen to bass heavy speakers, it's going to hit you in the face, the lack of bass weight on the JBL Charge 3. So what about maximum? What's the headroom now on all these speakers?
Will guide you far away to a place where senses will decay. Your ghost and mind will shadow play. I got you world upside
In terms of absolute volume, it is the Xboom in sound boost mode, but the Charge 3 not that far behind, talking a decibel down, and it's doing that because it's stronger in the mids. It doesn't have bass weight, has much more roll off as we get to the higher volumes. In terms of the deeper bass, 5 to 7 dB down in bass terms on the sound boost mode, but because of the stronger mids along the frequency range, overall, not only does it hold its own in terms of volume, even in terms of peaks, 98.2 is identical in terms of peaks to the sound boost mode on the PL7. And bring up the rear in terms of perceived loudness, even 4 decibels down on the Charge 3. The difference is it's holding on to its bass compared to the Charge 3. It just doesn't have the mids and the highs now that the Charge 3 holds on to help it go louder. Standard mode compared to boost mode, 50Hz and 60Hz mark about the same. So deep bass, despite the difference in volumes between sound boost mode and standard mode, sound boost mode has no more bass in terms of deep bass than the standard mode, but goes much louder because it's boosting elsewhere along the frequency range. So it can hold its own in terms of sheer volume because there isn't the bass weight, so it takes less power to drive the rest of the frequency response. Now, sound boost mode clearly goes louder, and as you hit maximum volumes, of course, it comes into its own, but only has the same bass as the standard mode at 100%. So to me, I only really use this now, standard mode, and then once I've hit 100%, then I hit sound boost mode. But I don't have it as an alternative mode because although you get more upper bass, you actually get a bass extension cut, and it's more V-shaped. not particularly pleasant to me. So a lot of people seem to be liking it. So there you have it, the JBL Charge 3 in today's terms. If you don't need a lot of bass, it could still make sense. If you want extremely clear vocals by today's standards, or when I say extremely clear, certainly very forward in your face vocals, they will stand out from the rest of the track, from the rest of the music in that track on this speaker. Get a pair of them. There will be a lot of air around your soundstage, but for me personally, can't really hold its own for any sort of analytical listening. The rest of the detail isn't there, and there isn't enough bass, you know, for your drums or whatever. It's just not going to be satisfying. If you're a classical music lover, it's not going to be the one for you. But if you listen to podcasts, if you just want it for you to listen to radio through, it's going to be fine. Now, if it was up against the Flip 5, it may be a different story. But of course, it is bigger than the Flip 5, and that's why I say in size terms, it now sits between the JBL Charge and the Flip. And they could give it a new name and reinvent the speaker. Hope you got something out of my comparison, and I thank you for watching.